Hi everybody, it's me Yaya and this is my daughter Chloe, and we are doing chapter 10 of Leviticus. Sorry, and there's my other daughter Holly. Chloe, keep your hands out of people's face. And this is my son Noah. This is my whole tribe here, guys. Okay.
Haven't me and Noah already been in one of your videos?
Yeah, both of you have. Chloe's
Why are you introducing us?
She thinks she knows everything. Too grown. Anyway, so Chloe's the only one who hasn't been in the video because last time you were making all kind of crazy noises. So you're going to behave this time? Then you can stay in the video. Okay. So as you know, I like the Amplified version because I feel that it fleshes out the intent of the Word of God better. Okay, so Chloe. So chapter 10 of Leviticus, the sin of Nadab and Abihu. Now Nadab and Abihu, the sons of Aaron, took their respective ceremonial censers, put fire in them, placed incense on it, and offered strange or unauthorized, unacceptable fire before the Lord, an act which he had not commanded them to do. And fire came out from the presence of the Lord, devoured them, and they died before the Lord. Then Moses said to Aaron, "This is what the Lord said. I will be treated as holy by those who approach me, and before all the people I will be honored." So Aaron therefore said nothing. Now this is something I find that God help me that I have to work on in life. Chloe, please, I'm trying to talk, baby, please. God is like, God, they say you have to train people the way you want them to treat you, and God certainly does that. He's like, listen, I ain't one to be played with. He burnt them up. It's like, go ahead, God, for real. I like to say that's gangster. You know me, I love to say that, but okay.
Yeah.
So Aaron therefore said nothing. What could Aaron possibly say, right? What could he say? Moses called Mishael and Elzaphan, the sons of Uzziel, who was Aaron's uncle, and said to them, "Come here, carry your relatives away from the front of the sanctuary and take them outside the camp." So they came forward and carried them, still in their undertunics, outside the camp, as Moses had said. Then Moses said to Aaron and to his younger sons, Eleazar and Ithamar, "Do not uncover your heads, nor let your hair hang loose, nor tear your clothes as expressions of mourning, so that you will not die also, and so that he will not express his wrath and anger toward all the congregation. But your relatives, the house of Israel, may mourn the burning which the Lord has brought about. You shall not even go out of the doorway of the tent of meeting, or you will die, for the Lord's anointing oil is upon you." So they did everything according to the word of Moses. Hi guys, I'm back. Okay, then the Lord spoke to Aaron, saying, "Do not drink wine or intoxicating drink, neither you nor your sons with you, when you come into the tent of meeting, so that you will not die. It is a permanent statute throughout your generations, and to make a distinction and recognize the difference between the holy or sacred and the common or profane, and between the ceremonially unclean and the clean. And you are to teach the Israelites all the statutes which the Lord has spoken to them through Moses." Okay. Then Moses said to Aaron and to his surviving sons, Eleazar and Ithamar, "Take the grain offering that is left over from the offerings by fire to the Lord, and eat it unleavened beside the altar, for it is most holy. You shall eat it in a holy place, because it is your portion and your son's portion from the offering by fire to the Lord, for so I have been commanded. But the breast of the wave offering and the thigh of the heave offering you may eat in a clean place, you and your sons and daughters with you. For the breast and the thigh are your portion, and your son's portion, given out of the sacrifices of the peace offerings of the Israelites. They shall bring the thigh presented by lifting up, and the breast presented by waving, along with the offerings by fire of the fat, to present as a wave offering before the Lord. This shall be yours and your sons with you as your perpetual portion, just as the Lord has commanded. But Moses diligently tried to find the goat that had been offered as the sin offering, and discovered that it had been burnt up as waste, not eaten. So he was angry with Aaron's surviving sons, Eleazar and Ithamar, saying, "Why did you eat the sin offering in the holy place? For it is most holy, and God gave it to you to remove the guilt of the congregation, to make atonement for them before the Lord. Behold, its blood was not brought into the holy place. You certainly should have eaten the goat in the sanctuary, just as I commanded." Then Aaron said to Moses, "This very day they have obediently presented their sin offering and their burnt offering before the Lord, but such terrible things as these have happened to me and to them. If I and my sons have eaten the sin offering today, would it have been acceptable and pleasing in the sight of the Lord?" When Moses heard that, he was satisfied. Okay. I'm down here in the footnotes. Okay, so when it talks about how the two deceased sons, the two sons that God killed, that they offered something by strange fire. It says what made the fire strange cannot be determined. They may have taken the fire from an unauthorized source, or used incense that did not meet the divine specifications. In any case, God's laws and requirements are not subject to modification by man. Hallelujah. Amen. Okay. And then down here. And then it talks about how these priests, they couldn't drink any kind of wine, any alcohol at all, I guess. And it says this prohibition may imply that intoxication precipitated the irreverent behavior that resulted in the death of Aaron's two older sons. Okay, that makes sense. Yeah, I drank many years ago. I've been drunk like once or twice in my life, and honestly, I don't. It's a bad look. It's just a bad look, especially on a woman. It's a bad look, and you can't make any kind of smart decisions that way. So yeah, I don't drink at all myself, and I don't even like the taste of it, honestly. I mean, who honestly likes the taste of that stuff? I don't know. I'm not a wine aficionado, Okay, anyway, Leviticus 11, laws about animals for food. The Lord spoke again to Moses and Aaron, saying to them, "Speak to the children of Israel, saying, among all the animals," keep your shirt down, baby. Okay. "Among all the animals which are on the earth, these are the animals which you may eat. You may eat any animal that has a divided hoof, that is, a hoof split into two parts, especially at its external extremity, and choose the cud. Nevertheless, you are not to eat these among those which chew the cud or divide the hoof. The camel, because it chews the cud but does not divide the hoof, it is ceremonially unclean to you. And the shaphan, because it chews the cud but does not divide the hoof, it is unclean to you. And the hare, because it chews the cud but does not divide the hoof, it is unclean to you. And the swine, because it divides the hoof and makes a split hoof, but does not chew the cud, it is unclean to you. You shall not eat their meat, nor touch their carcasses, they are unclean to you. These you may eat, whatever is in the water, whatever has fins and scales in the waters, in the seas, and in the rivers." Bless you, baby. Yeah. "These you may eat, but," hey, close out. "But whatever does not have fins and scales in the seas and in the rivers, of all the teeming life in the waters, and of all the living creatures that are in the waters, they are to be considered detestable to you. Okay, so I guess they didn't eat shrimp and crabs and things like that. And not only was it unclean, it was considered detestable. They shall be hated things to you. Yeah, baby, what?
Hey, take my butt.
Okay, anyway. They shall be hated things to you. You may not eat their meat. You shall detest their carcasses. Everything in the water that does not have fins and scales is detestable to you. Avoid the unclean. These you shall detest among the birds. They are not to be eaten, for they are hated things. The eagle, wow, and the vulture and the buzzard, the kite, every kind of falcon, every kind of raven, the ostrich, the nighthawk, the seagull, every species of hawk, the little owl and the cormorant, and the great owl, the white owl, the pelican and the carrion vulture, the stork, all kinds of heron, the hoopoe, and the bat. All winged insects that walk on all fours are detestable to you. Yet of all winged insects that walk on all fours you may eat those which have legs above their feet, above their feet, with which to leap on the ground. Okay. Of these you may eat the whole species of migratory locust, of bald locust, of cricket, and of grasshopper. But all of their winged all other winged insects which are four-footed are detestable to you. By contact with these you will become unclean. Whoever touches their carcasses becomes unclean until the evening or dusk. And whoever picks up any of their carcasses shall wash his clothes and be unclean until the evening. Concerning all the animals which divide the hoof, but do not have a split hoof, or which do not chew the cud, they are unclean to you. Whoever touches them becomes unclean. Also, all animals that walk on their paws among all kinds of animals that walk on four legs are unclean to you. Whoever touches their carcasses becomes unclean until evening. And the one who picks up their carcasses shall wash his clothes and be unclean until the evening. They are unclean to you. Okay, now I'm a bit confused. I don't know if you caught that just like I did. It says, also all animals that walk on their paws are all among all kinds of animals that walk on four legs are unclean to you. Well, doesn't that include dogs and cats? And I'm pretty sure that, like, I thought dogs were part of Hebrew culture. I thought they were. Like, it talks about the beggar, the poor beggar who the angels took him up to heaven, and it says he had like sores all over his body, and the dog licked his sores, and when they say she was a black woman, right, who came to Jesus and his disciples, and she's calling after Jesus, please heal my daughter. She was saying her daughter was possessed, and he hadn't healed anyone who wasn't Hebrew at that time. So he said, I've been sent to the Hebrew people, not to what do you call them? Well, anybody who's not Hebrew. To the Gentiles. I haven't been sent to the Gentiles, right? And she says to him, but even the dogs get the scraps from the table. And he said, wow, I've never seen faith like yours among Hebrew people. And he did go ahead and heal her daughter. So, that was an interesting thing. That story, always found it interesting. But yeah, so I figured dogs were a part of Hebrew culture. So now I am confused about that. I don't know about you. Okay. Okay, these also are unclean to you among the swarming things that crawl around on the ground and multiply profusely: the mole, the mouse, and any kind of great lizard, the gecko, the crocodile, the lizard, the sand reptile, and the chameleon. These creatures are unclean to you among all that swarm. Whoever touches them when they are dead becomes unclean until evening. Also, anything on which one of them falls after dying becomes unclean, whether it is an article of wood or clothing or a skin or a sack, any article that is used. It must be put in water and will be unclean until the evening. Then it becomes clean. As for any earthenware container into which any of these crawling things falls, whatever is in it becomes unclean. And you shall break the container. Any of the food which may be eaten, but on which unclean water falls, shall become unclean. And any liquid that may be drunk in every container shall become unclean. Everything that part of their carcasses falls on becomes unclean. An oven or a small stove shall be smashed. They are unclean and shall be unclean to you. Nevertheless, a spring or a cistern reservoir collecting water shall be clean, but whoever touches one of these carcasses shall be unclean. If a part of their carcass falls on any seed for sowing, which is to be sown, it is clean. But if water is put on the seed and a part of their carcass falls on it, it is unclean to you. Yes, Chloe?
Look. Look me.
I see you. If one of the animals that you may eat dies of natural causes, whoever touches its carcass becomes unclean until the evening, and whoever eats some of its meat shall wash his clothes and be unclean until the evening. Also, whoever picks up its carcass shall wash his clothes and be unclean until the evening. Now everything that swarms on the ground is detestable. It is not to be eaten. Whatever crawls on its belly, and whatever walks on all fours, and whatever has many feet among all things that swarms on the ground, you shall not eat. Hey, busybody. Where was I? For they are detestable. Do not make yourselves loathsome, impure, repulsive by eating any swarming thing. You shall not make yourselves unclean by them as to defile yourselves. For I am the Lord your God. So consecrate yourselves and be holy, for I am holy. You shall not make yourselves unclean with any of the swarming things that swarm or crawls on the ground. For I am the Lord who brought you up from the land of Egypt to be your God. Therefore you shall be holy, for I am holy. This is the law regarding the animal and the bird and every living thing that moves in the waters and everything that swarms on the earth, to make a distinction between the ceremonially unclean and the ceremonially clean, and between the animal that may be eaten and the animal that may not be eaten. So I'm down here in the footnotes. Yes. Okay, 11:5. And it says, and it's talking about some more unclean animals up here, and it says, and the shaphan, okay, because it chews the cud but does not divide the hoof. So let me go back down. It says the shaphan, a small, shy, furry animal. Coco, stop it. Found in the peninsula of the Sinai, northern Israel, and the region around the Dead Sea. Okay, so in the King James, it's called a coney. In the North American Standard Bible, I guess, the NASB, rock badger, and its Latin name is Hyrax syriacus. Okay, let me go on to Leviticus 12. Okay. Laws of motherhood. Okay. Then the Lord spoke to Moses, saying, Speak to the children of Israel, saying, if a woman conceives and gives birth to a male child, she shall be ceremonially unclean for 7 days, unclean as during her monthly period. On the 8th day, the flesh of the male child's foreskin shall be circumcised. Then she shall remain intimately separated 33 days to be purified from the blood. She shall not touch any consecrated thing, nor enter the courtyard of the sanctuary until the days of her purification are over. But if she gives birth to a female child, then she shall be unclean for 2 weeks, as during her monthly period, and she shall remain intimately separated 66 days to be purified from the blood. So that's 2 months, right? 1 month and then 2 months. Okay. When the days of her purification are completed, whether for a son or for a daughter, she shall bring to the priest at the doorway of the tent of meeting a 1-year-old lamb as a burnt offering, and a young pigeon or turtle dove as a sin offering, and he shall offer it before the Lord and make atonement for her, and she shall be cleansed from the flow of her blood. This is the law for her who gives birth to a child, whether a male or female. If she cannot afford a lamb, then she shall take 2 turtle doves or young pigeons as a burnt offering, the other as a sin offering. The priest shall make atonement for her, and she will be clean. Leviticus 13. The test for leprosy. Then the Lord spoke to Moses and said, and to Aaron, cloak, baby. Band-Aid. Go out the camera. Go out the camera, girl.
Okay.
Look.
Sorry.
I say leave it alone, Chloe.
Sorry.
Leave it alone. Okay?
Yeah.
Okay. Then the Lord spoke to Moses and Aaron, saying, when a man has a swelling on the skin of his body, a scab or bright spot, and it becomes the infection of leprosy on the skin of his body, then he shall be brought to Aaron the priest, or to one of his sons and the priests. The priest shall look at the diseased spot on the skin of his body. Coco, take that out your mouth, baby.
Okay.
And if the hair in the infection has turned white and the infection appears to be deeper than the skin of his body, it is an infection of leprosy. When the priest has looked at him, he shall pronounce him ceremonially unclean. If the bright spot is white on the skin of his body and does not appear to be deeper than the skin, and the hair on it has not turned white, the priest shall isolate the person who has the infection for 7 days. The priest shall examine it on the 7th day, and if his estimation of the infection has not changed and has not spread on the skin, then the priest shall isolate him for 7 more days. The priest shall examine him again on the 7th day, and if the infection has a more normal color and the spot has not spread on the skin, the priest shall pronounce him clean. It is only a scab, and he shall wash his clothes and be clean. But if the scab spreads farther on the skin after he has shown himself to the priest for the ceremonial cleansing, he shall show himself to the priest again. The priest shall look, and if the scab is spread on the skin, then he shall pronounce him unclean. It is leprosy. Coco, when a leprous infection is on a person, Coco, stop it.
Sorry.
Give me that, Chloe.
Sorry.
Give me.
Sorry.
When a leprous infection is on a person, he shall be brought to the priest. The priest shall examine him, and if there is a white swelling on the skin, and it has turned the hair white, and there is a new raw flesh in the swelling, it is a chronic leprosy on the skin of his body, and the priest shall pronounce him unclean. He shall not isolate him because he is clearly unclean. But if the suspected leprosy breaks out farther on the skin, and it covers all of the skin of the one who has the outbreak from his head to his foot, wherever the priest looks, the priest shall examine him. If the suspected leprosy has covered his entire body, he shall pronounce him clean of the disease. It has all turned white, and he is clean. But whenever raw flesh appears on him, he shall be unclean. The priest shall examine the raw flesh, and he shall pronounce him unclean. The raw flesh is unclean, it is leprosy. But if the raw flesh turns again and is changed to white, then he shall come to the priest, and the priest shall examine him. And if the diseased part is changed to white, then the priest shall pronounce him who had the disease to be clean. He is clean. And when there is on the skin of the body the scar of a boil that is healed, and in the place of the boil there is a white swelling or a bright spot, reddish white, then it shall be shown to the priest. And the priest shall look, and if it looks deeper than the skin, and the Chloe.
Sorry.
Let's see, where am I? Deeper than the skin, and the hair on it has turned white, the priest shall pronounce him unclean. It is the disease of leprosy. It has broken out in the boil. But if the priest examines it and finds no white hair in it, and it is not deeper than the skin, it is dull in color, then the priest shall isolate him for 7 days. If it spreads farther on the skin, then the priest shall pronounce him unclean. It is a disease. But if the bright spot remains where it is and does not spread, it is the scar of the boil, and the priest shall pronounce him unclean.
Will you cuff me, Daddy?
Or if the body has on its skin a burn from fire, and the new flesh of the burn becomes a bright spot, the reddish white or white, then the priest shall examine it, and if the hair is in the bright spot has turned white, and it appears deeper than the skin, then leprosy has broken out in the burn. So the priest shall pronounce him unclean. It is the disease of leprosy. But if the priest examines it, and there is no white hair in the bright spot, and it is not deeper than the rest of the skin, but it is dull in color, then the priest shall isolate him for 7 days. Close. Get it out. Okay. Let's see. Where am I? But if the priest examines it, and there is no white hair in the bright spot, and it is not deeper than the rest of the skin, but is dull in color, then the priest shall isolate him for 7 days, and the priest shall examine him on the 7th day. If it is spreading farther than the skin, then the priest shall pronounce him unclean. It is leprosy. But if the bright spot remains in its place and has not spread in the skin, but is dull in color, it is a swelling from the burn, and the priest shall pronounce him clean, for it is the scar of the burn.
What's that?
When a man or woman has a disease on the head, or in the beard or face, the priest shall examine the diseased place. If it appears to be deeper than the skin, with yellow, thin hair in it, the priest shall pronounce him unclean. Coco, girl, get out the thing. Blah, blah, blah. Okay. The priest shall examine the diseased place. If it appears to be deeper than the skin, with yellow thin hair in it, the priest shall pronounce him unclean. It is a scale. It is leprosy of the head or beard. But if the priest examines the spot infected by the scale, and it does not appear deeper than the skin, then there is no black hair in it. The priest shall isolate the person with the scaly infection for 7 days. On the 7th day, the priest shall examine the diseased spot. If the scale has not spread and has no... Go take that out. And has no yellow hair in it, and the scale does not look deeper than the skin, then he shall... Go in the back. Go in the back.
Sorry.
No, sorry nothing. Go in the back.
Sorry.
Go in the back. No, sorry nothing. Hold on, guys.
Me.
Okay. Then on the 7th day, the priest shall look at the scale. Okay. If the scale has not spread on the skin and it appears to be deeper than the skin, the priest shall pronounce him clean. Chloe, give me some space, baby. But if the scale spreads farther on the skin after his cleansing, then the priest shall examine him. And if the scale has spread on the skin, the priest need not look for the yellowish hair. He is unclean. If in the priest's estimation the scale has remained without spreading, and the black hair has grown in it, the scale is healed, he is clean, and the priest shall pronounce him clean. When a man or a woman has bright spots on the skin of the body, even white bright spots, then the priest shall look, and if the bright spots on the skin of their bodies is a dull white, it is only a rash that has broken out on the skin. He is clean. If a man loses the hair on his head, he is bald, but he is clean. And if he loses the hair, Chloe, stop. And if he loses the hair on the front of his head, he is bald on the forehead, but he is clean. But if there is a reddish white infection on the bald head of the forehead, it is leprosy breaking out on his bald head and forehead. Then the priest shall examine him, and if the disease swelling is reddish white on his bald head or forehead, then the appearance of the leprosy on the skin of the body. He is a leprous man. He is unclean. The priest shall most certainly pronounce him unclean. His disease is on his head. Shh, Chloe. When a garment has a mark of leprosy in it, whether it is a wool... Okay. When a garment has a mark of leprosy in it, whether it is a wool garment or a linen garment, whether in woven or knitted material or in the warp, lengthwise strands or woof, crosswise strands of linen or of wool, or in a skin, or in anything made of leather, if the mark is greenish or reddish in the garment or in the leather or in the warp or woof, or in any article made of leather, it is an infestation of leprosy. And shall be shown to the priest. The priest shall examine the mark and shall quarantine the article with the mark for 7 days. Coco, stop. He shall examine the mark on the 7th day. If it has spread in the garment, whether in the warp or woof or in the leather, whatever the... Okay. Or anything made of leather, then the priest shall order that they wash the thing. Hi, I'm back. Okay, when a garment has a mark of leprosy in it, whether it is a wool garment or a linen garment, whether in woven or knitted material or in the warp, lengthwise strands or woof, crosswise strands of linen, or of wool, or in a skin, or anything made of leather, the mark is greenish or reddish in the garment or in the leather or in the warp or the woof or in any article made of leather. It is an infestation of leprosy and shall be shown to the priest. The priest shall examine the mark and shall quarantine the article with the mark for 7 days. He shall examine the mark on the 7th day. If it has spread in the garment, whether in the warp or the woof or in the leather, whether the leather's purpose, whatever the leather's purpose, the mark is a malignant leprosy. It is unclean, so he shall burn the garment, whether the warp or woof, or in wool or linen, or anything made of leather is in which the mark occurs, for it is a malignant leprosy. It shall be burned in the fire. But if the priest sees the mark has not spread in the garment, either in the warp or woof, or anything made of leather, the priest shall order that they wash the things in which the mark occurs, and he shall quarantine it for 7 more days. The priest shall examine the article with the mark after it has been washed, and if the mark has not changed color, even though the mark has not spread, it is unclean. You shall burn it in the fire. It is a corroding mildew, whether on the top or the front of it. If the priest looks and the mark has faded after it is washed, he shall tear it out of the garment, or in the leather, or out of the warp or the woof. It still appears in the garment, either in the warp or in the woof, or on anything made of leather. it is an outbreak. You shall burn the marked part in the fire. The garment, whether the warp or the wolf or anything made of leather from which the mildew has departed after washing, shall then be washed a second time, and it will be ceremonially clean. This is the law of a leprous disease in a garment of wool or linen, either in warp or woof, or on anything made of leather, to pronounce it clean or unclean. Clean. Okay, so I'm down here in the footnotes, and it says here, sit down. And it says here, Hansen's disease or leprosy was well recognized in many ancient civilizations, but from the details of the disease in Leviticus 13, it is thought by many that other skin disorders may also have been categorized as leprosy. The term is derived from a Greek word, lepra, which was applied to several kinds of skin diseases. Okay. Chloe, come in. Come, sit down. Come. Okay, so I had a nice time reading, if not so much stressful time trying to read with you today. But anyway, thank you for attending the Bible study today. And that was Leviticus 10 through, where am I? That was, hush code. That was Leviticus 10 through 13. And may God bless you. And I look forward to you being in my Bible study tomorrow. And if Chloe's there, she's going to behave better, right? Right? Okay. Well, maybe not tomorrow, because tomorrow's Sunday, because I'm going to take a break on Sunday. But anyway, the next time you see me, we'll just say tomorrow for you. Okay. God bless you. Okay.